Start my own stopwatch because I have a tendency to go over. Thank you guys. So I'm going to be talking about mining GitHub commit data with Splunk. Now, how many people here are actually familiar with Splunk? Just a few. Okay, well that's going to change in a minute. So one thing I wanted to say is that, Splunk is not an open source product, but we actually have open source SDKs. But one of the nice things for developers that I think a lot don't realize is that you can actually download Splunk for free and you get a 500 megabyte a day daily ingest license. So if you're just developing and you want to test out working with log files, do mining, pretty much you can point any data at Splunk, which I'm going to show you right now. And you can point it at data that's local on your system, but you can also teach it to extend out. You can extend it to talk to other kinds of external systems. And one that we seem to like is the one that Oktokit represents, which is GitHub. And it turns out that you can actually do this with .NET. So we have an extensibility point in Splunk, which is called a modular input. You can author modular inputs in multiple languages, and one of them is C#. And what a modular input is, it's basically a process that Splunk will launch for you, and you get a place where you can actually write code that goes out and queries anything. So my example that I'm going to show you is actually using the Oktokit NuGet package to then mine commit data into Splunk. What's really nice about it too, if you use Splunk and you author a modular input, it shows up as a first-class input within Splunk, and I'll show you what that means in a second. Okay, so here I am in my VM, and I'm going to log in to my Splunk instance. And you'll notice when I go over to the settings, I have these things called data inputs. Data inputs are the way that you feed data into Splunk. And you'll notice that I have this option here called GitHub commits. GitHub commits is actually this extension that we created that you could create yourself. Right now, I've pointed it at the script.cs repo. So if I click new here, it will actually prompt me. The UI looks a little screwy right now on my machine, but it will prompt me for different fields that I can fill out to define a new input. And the GitHub input is a new type that I could use it to point to any kind of repo. I've previously pointed it at our script.cs repo, and this is what I demoed yesterday. So if I go here, for example, I can do search, and I can say index equals GitHub. Oh. Did I clear it? Maybe I must have deleted it. All right. Let's do this. Let's go here, and let's re-enable it. I think I disabled it, so I'll just re-enable it. Let's try it again. So I'm going to disable it and re-enable it, and I should see shortly that it will start pulling in GitHub commit data. Okay, there we go. So you can see that this is actually pulling the raw commit data, just pulled it down from GitHub for all of the work, the commits that we've had in script.cs. And then what I can do is things like I can actually do aggregates against that data. Like I can get stats by author and see who's done the most commits. Now you'll notice right now those numbers are low because it's still actually mining the data right now. And this can be set up to continually mine real time. Even if there's no real-time feed, it can poll continuously. Okay, so let's take a look at what it looks like to author something like this in C# using Oktokit. Okay, so when you author a modular input, you'll actually have a DLL that you'll create, and that DLL will end up actually getting deployed. Let's see, where is the source for this thing? Debug app. Here we go. So you see I have a class that inherits from this thing called modular input. And the important thing is I have this thing called a scheme, and that scheme defines the parameters that I want to show up in the UI. It's not that interesting. The thing that's most interesting is actually where the streaming is going to happen. Now, this particular app, so there's this method called stream commit, and this will get, one other method here. There's a method called stream events async, and this is a method that Splunk will invoke. And in this, what I'm going to do is use the Oktokit SDK to then connect to GitHub using the repo information that was passed in. Once I'm connected, I can then call client repository commits.getAll to start streaming those commits in. And then I can actually just write those JSON objects right back to Splunk, which is what I'm doing with this event writer. So this is just one example of how you could do this to talk to GitHub, but you could use this really to talk to any kind of external system. Once that data is in Splunk, you can then query against it, real time, do dashboards, etc. Okay, so for more information, I'm done. I probably went slightly over. I'm the last one. I can get away with it. You can go to dev.splunk.com, and to get Oktokit, you can go to github.com/Oktokit/Oktokit.net. Also, when you're authoring those inputs, they support async await, so you can write the code the way you want to write it. Thank you guys very, very much.